Why do people shy away from money conversations, money talks?
Because the subject of money is something people consider secondary. Hear someone say, okay, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be that. But you never hear people, like he has mentioned, intentionally just say, okay, now I want to accumulate money.
Now I
I
want to
want to
accumulate.
accumulate money. So if your objective is I want to accumulate money, of course, what happens? You begin to learn about money intentionally, not passively. You see, people always try to think like as if when you bring up the subject of money, you're perceived as being greedy or perceived as being too ambitious or something like that. So people tend to shy away from money. And like I was having a conversation with some people yesterday, it's also interesting because in Africa, the statistics is clear. A lot of adults that you have today come from a background of no money. So that has in their like one of the business philosophers had always pointed out, in their conversations at home, nobody talks about money. On their dining table, nobody talks about money. That's for those that even had dining tables. So so when you are raised like that, you do not see money as an important subject. You see every other thing as important, and money is just one of those things. It will come. And it does not work like that. You have to be very, very deliberate. You have to be very, very intentional. You have, like he said, the key word there, you have to learn. I'd ask you, someone says, okay, I want to become a doctor, a surgeon. He knows I need to do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's going to take a couple of years and then he's going to become a surgeon. Hopefully, if I want to be an engineer, I need to do this, do this, do this, do this, so that eventually I become an engineer. I want to be an accountant. That's another thing there. Being an accountant has nothing to do with accumulation of money. So, but the question is, how many persons have sat down and said, today, I'm going to have a meeting with myself and I. And the subject matter is, how am I going to accumulate money in the next 5 years? Something that intentional, like deliberate, design it properly. So like he said, very key important thing is, as an adult, I think that it's important once you get to 18, we should have that conversation. How to accumulate money? Because the last time I checked, the only utility in life right now is money. It is the only thing that accumulates you every other thing that you need. And people try to shy away from it, to take on it headlong. You see people come, they try to disguise it, and they can say relationships is important, this is important, that is important, that is important. But no one really wants to say this money as a subject matter. Let's take it head on.
Well,
Financial intelligence, it's a concept of your ability to really understand the financial status of a person or an entity. And what that means is your ability to know, first of all, I would start with the concept of budget, where you need to know, they say before you build a house, you should sit down and count the costs. So that talks about budgeting. So once you do that, that now allows you to begin to realize the resources you would need. And you begin to think about, how am I going to source these resources? So you don't keep having pipe dreams. I'll give you a typical example. If you ask any Nigerian, I think one of the greatest disservice statements we've ever had in this country is "it go better."
you don't believe say go better.
That's a wrong statement. "It go better" is not a plan. It's not a strategy. It's a pipe dream. It's a hope. So you see a guy going for 30 years, it go better. If that guy had sat down and say, how do I make it better? Not ego better. Ego better is you transferring the responsibility to someone else, to the government or to whoever, except yourself.
So everyone takes responsibility except you.
Exactly. Everybody else is responsible except you. So you hear young people say, my uncle did this, my uncle did that. It's always somebody else's fault. So financial intelligence comes with a situation where you first of all do an audit of yourself. What is my current financial statement? I call it the adult report card. You see, how many people would expect a child to be in school and say you have a child and then you want the child to be in primary one for 5 years? But you see a lot of adults in primary one in their adult report card, which is your financial statement for 5 years, 10 years in the same spot, but they'll be beating a kid who is not progressing. So the reason is they do not audit their current status. There's nothing wrong with looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm in a mess. That's where change begins, acknowledgement. So you realize that financially, I'm in a mess. So the next question is, how do we fix this mess? So financial intelligence comes with all of that, the awareness, and then of course seeking the knowledge to know what to do with the resources when they come, when you find them, and your ability to spread the resources and maximize the whatever resources you have in your hand. And if there's anything I've learned, it's not about the amount of money. It's about the principle. It's about the thesis a person follows about their finance. So I'll give you a typical example.
Go ahead, please.
I could tell you that the guy that spends everything he earns, he spends everything he earns. Everything. It's not about how much you earn. The mere fact that you spend everything you earn, I can guarantee you, it's a wrong thing to say, but I can almost guarantee you that poverty will always be your neighbor.
Oh dear, that's a strong one.
Yeah, it's a strong one.
So
Just by that simple principle of spending everything you
you
earn. It's not about the amount. If you make 2 million naira in Nigeria monthly, that's a fortune. But if you spend 2 million naira monthly, you're as the same like the guy that earns 20K monthly and spends 20K monthly. You're at the same level. So it's not about how much you earn. It's about the practice. So if a guy earns as little as the minimum wage, I know that is still in contention, let's say 30K, and that guy disciplines himself to say, I'm going to put away 5%, 10% of whatever I earn. And like he referenced a book, and it's something that we've practiced for a long time. If you defend, I always make it like a joke. I say, you need to put away, you do everything else. You spend on everything except for yourself. You need to put away money for yourself. That is your fortress. And then you defend it from everybody. And I always make a joke and say, no weapon, you need to put that money aside and say, no weapon fashioned, formed, or designed against this money will prosper. What are the weapons? That your friend that's going to call you that they're in trouble. That's
2K.
that urgent 2K. That's your family person that is good. Those are all weapons. You need to recognize them for what they are, because they are there to do what? Destroy that your little fortress. Because that's the way it works. That's the way it works. By the time you start putting money aside, you will start having Messiah complex. You have some cash around, so there's always something. Listen, there is always something to spend money on. So, but you need to know that those are the things designed against that your fortune. So when you defend it, and he talked about something, I think is the simplest way to put the whole concept of money and the whole concept of finance. There are 3 phases. First of all, you have to make money. And I mean economic engagement, not the strategy of making money by calling everybody. It's a way of making money too. It's for real. That's what people do. They just call, like if you call 50 people, maybe 5 will respond and you're good for that period. You understand? But I'm talking about an economic activity that generates you revenue, regardless. It does not matter how much you make. You have to be in the game first, which is make money. And then you come to the second principle, manage money, which I just given one tip there, which is put something aside that you defend with your life. You need to see anything coming for that money as a direct attack on your life, because it is a direct attack on your life. People don't know that money is that serious. If someone comes with a gun to kill you, and then you take up somehow and you overpower the person and kill the person, even if they take you to court, it will be pleaded as what? Self-defense. So you need to defend yourself by defending your financial fortress, because your life, the life of your kids, the life of your family depends on you defending that. And that's manage money. And of course, the third layer, which is very essential, is how do you multiply money? You see, one of the reasons why a lot of Africans get it so wrong, and that's why you hear a lot of Ponzi scheme thriving. One of the places Ponzi scheme thrives is poor economies. The reason is people try to jump the process. They don't know, they barely know how to make money, barely. So they just come across money once in a while. That's not what I'm talking about. A steady flow of cash flow, like he mentioned. And then they manage money, they skip it entirely. You know what they want to do? They want to multiply money. So you hear, because if you know about managing money, there are some, you could see through a Ponzi scheme. And initially, I used to think that people that fall for those things are naive. But what I've come to realize is they're not naive. Some of them say, let us get it before it shuts down. So it's outright gambling. Yeah, outright gambling. So when you have learned to manage money, when you learn to, first of all, make money, learn to manage money, and then, of course, when it comes to multiplying money, you'll be a lot more careful. Because it's simple principle. If you do not lose money, you could keep building on. It says, for he that has much, much more will be added to him. But he that has nothing, even the little he has, will be taken
away
and given to who? The one that has the most. So it's a principle. And then I end up with saying, the poor you would always have, but I wish that you do not be one of them.